Hi, my name is Robert. Please read the comments in the About section of this video. It has valuable information and updates. My YouTube channel has a disclaimer video that I encourage you to watch. And please like, share, and subscribe. I hope you found what you're looking for. Thank you very much for watching. I was communicating with somebody a day or two ago on Instagram about the high miles on Panther. And one thing I told him was, hey, I started tuning it. And usually that's the beginning of the end of a well-maintained car. If you leave these vehicles stock, they'll go 500,000 miles without much effort. Just general maintenance, changing the oil on time, fixing stuff that needs repaired, keeping the car tuned up, etc. I believe they're 500,000 mile cars. Now you go changing what the manufacturer did, putting in bigger turbos, boosting up the pressure, trying to put high performance parts on there versus stock parts. It's probably the beginning of the end. When the car was designed to flow all day at 222 horsepower and they crank it up to 240, now you crank it up to 300, it's just probably not going to last as long as it would as if you left it stock. So if I blow the engine up in Panther, do I care? Would it really bother me? Not really. I'll just put another engine in it. Fortunately, I got the time to do that. Am I saying that tuning your car will destroy it? Not really, but it will affect the longevity of it. Tuning it probably will affect the longevity of it. And if you don't do it right, you're going to be destroying stuff on it. Most tuners strongly recommend that you stage zero your car before you tune it. Unfortunately, some of that stuff is out of date. They were making those lists 10 years ago. Now, instead of everything being 8 and 10 years old, everything is 20 and 22 years old. So that list should actually be longer. You know, they tell you to do stuff like change your spark plugs, your spark plug wires, refresh your vacuum lines and stuff like that. Man, now I'm telling you, you need to do everything that will gain pressure from upping your boost, running higher RPMs, and straining that engine. And that includes servicing your transmission. Man, when you look in a car that has 22-year-old boost pressure tubes coming from the turbo to the intake, that stuff cannot take no 15 psi or better. It's just going to blow off, tear, come loose. So all that stuff needs to be refreshed. I also recommend replacing coolant hoses, replacing your heater core, replacing your firewall junction, anything that will get more pressure from you running higher RPMs. You know, your oil cooler lines, there's just so much stuff that needs to be replaced. Now, do you need to replace the seat in the car? Probably not. But do you need to consider fixing those old, worn out CV axles? Probably so. So I'm going to make what I consider an updated list that I put together on stage zeroing based on the history of me tuning Panther and Queen Bee. Like I said, that list has changed from the cars that were 7 and 10 years old versus cars that are 22 years old. Now this updated list is going to include things like checking the turbo for its wear, not just checking for shaft play, but seeing if it's actually producing the boost that it's supposed to perform and manufacture. Because recently I've added a tune in Queen Bee. I thought I was going to get more boost, 6-7 psi, holding steady. It was tuned for 15, I wasn't getting 15. So it'll include stuff like fuel lines that are old and brittle, not metal lines, but the rubber hoses and stuff. So one thing that a lot of people overlook is those turbos, man. You got to make sure you got to good strong turbo. If it's not good and strong, have it rebuilt. I tell people have them rebuilt by a professional. You can do it yourself, but if you have it done professionally, it'll likely last you in excess of 100,000 miles. Not something that'll blow up in, 10,000 miles. Another thing you really need to do is take care of any oil leaks. I see people tuning cars that are leaking oil, leaking coolant, stuff like that. That's just not good. You should also do a compression test to make sure that the engine is nice and strong. If not, instead of that thing blowing up in 30, 50,000 miles, it'll probably blow up in 500-600 miles. So, you want to do a proper stage zero. Make sure the car can take the pressure you're about to add on it. Now, if you're just daily driving your car and you want to refresh your turbo, running out to the junkyard, grabbing a 15, 20-year-old turbo with 130,000 miles on it, probably not the worst thing you could do. However, if you got a 20-year-old turbo, why not send that thing in to be rebuilt by a professional turbo rebuilder, or try to rebuild it yourself? Now, my opinion is throwing in an old turbo with 150,000 miles may not be a bad thing. A lot of these turbos go 200,000-300,000 miles if they're properly cared for in your normal daily driving. Taking a turbo apart, not knowing the wear specifications, not checking the shaft properly for wear, not cleaning all the carbon out of the parts the way it needs to be done, putting it back together, not having it rebalanced, you're probably putting a turbo in that under normal driving conditions will last 50,000 miles, no different than your average eBay turbo. But if you have it professionally rebuilt, it should last 200,000-300,000 miles, just like a brand new turbo. Now, I've had viewers, friends, people in the Volvo community actually send their turbo in, or a turbo in, to be upgraded by somebody that said that they rebuilt turbos all the time. And I've seen and heard of those turbos not working properly when installed, blowing up 3, 4, 5, 6,000 miles. Man, you need it professionally done. You need the specs checked in the wear. You need those things professionally VSR balanced if you want them to last a good long time. I hate to be halfway across the country, decide that I need to overtake an 18-wheeler, punch on it on the highway, going from 65 to the speed limit, halfway around the truck, my turbo blow up. That's just something I don't want to do. So, I don't rebuild it myself. I have rebuilt one myself, I just don't. One other thing I want to say about dropping old turbos on your car, something I think I experienced with Queen Bee. Some of you know when I purchased the car had a newer eBay turbo on it. The turbo probably had 35,000 miles on it. I took it to the dyno. The dyno results were a little sketchy in my opinion. The overboosting was happening partially because of the wastegate, and some other things about the way the turbo spun up. I just wasn't that comfortable with it, and I wanted to do testing on the turbo that was more real life like most of you guys would have. So I went out to the salvage yard, found the 94 850 T5, pulled that 15G off of it. It felt nice and tight. Sometimes these turbos have wear in them and they feel nice and tight because there's carbon buildup in them. Anyway, I put the turbo on the car. It seemed to run fine. It was still boosting decently. I got similar track times as I did with the other one on there. So I came back. I pulled that turbo back off. I put on this straight flange from the Volvo conical flange, and I went back to the track, and I think the car didn't run as well after pulling that turbo and putting it back on. let's just say I got a 25-year-old turbo on the car. The car's been treated very well. I don't know the mileage on it, maybe 250,000 miles. Anyway, this turbo is going to have some wear. It's got moving parts. Well, it didn't feel like it had any shaft play, so I installed it on Queen Bee, tried to get a dyno done on it, ran some quarter-mile times. When I pulled that turbo off and put it back on, I had a little bit of a struggle getting it on. One time I reached down and felt it, the blades were bound up and I couldn't move them, which means that it wasn't straight in the exhaust flange. So took it loose, put it back on, finally got that thing where it should be, spinning, got back to the track, put an upgraded ECU in the car, and ran the same exact quarter-mile times. However, I installed a boost gauge, and I figured out that after installing it that last time, that thing was only boosting the 6 psi. So I cranked the Wastegate actuator in a little bit. I was peaking at 10, boosting at 8, and I really should have been boosting at 15 psi. So my theory is taking that off, putting it back on, getting that turbine wheel bound up a little bit, I likely damaged that turbine and it would no longer spin up the way it needed to. So I'm gonna see if I got any shaft play in it in a minute or two. I'm gonna go ahead and pull it, put this one on, and know that I got a nice fresh rebuilt turbo on here for my new tune. And like you know, if you watched last time, I got some exhaust modifications. I should be boosting 15 psi with no problem. So we'll see here shortly. Still waiting on this thing to cool down a little bit. So back to my opinion. If you put a bigger turbo on and don't do the proper stage 0 procedures, you're probably going to break something and you're probably going to blow your engine out. Big example is these Wastegate Actuators. I can't tell you how many times I've seen messages, got messages, been told by, people that know their Volvos. They wanted a little more boost. They started tinkering around with that Wastegate actuator. Their computer and their turbo control valve or boost control valve could not respond quick enough. Crack the cylinder wall. You'll know it because now you won't be building compression and you'll have misfires. You gotta replace the engine. I heard one guy is filling those cracks in, but nonetheless, don't do things improper and you probably won't blow stuff up. Now, one problem I have with tuning these things are there's just not a whole lot of money in it. It's not every day that somebody is still trying to tune an 850. Probably every other day, but not every day. Then the people that are doing it, cash poor. They're not ready to pay nobody $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to tune their car, so they're cutting corners. They get a tune from somebody, Vast, ARD, Hilton, wherever. These are small companies. I don't know how many people's on the staff at Vast Tuning, but I doubt it's 3. I don't know how many people is on the staff at ARD to deal with P80 cars. I doubt it's more than 3. They don't have a team of 20, 30, 40 people to sit there and respond to people as people would want. Hey, I was doing my Vast tune, I was doing something wrong, car wouldn't start. Actually, I was sent a bad file, couldn't get my car started. I sent them an email and I needed a response immediately. Fortunate for me, they were available. They responded to my email, sent me another tune file, got the car tuned, fired up, and going again. Now, they can't always do that. So, People send a message after they blow their car up, don't get a response in 5 minutes, then they want to go 8. Start sending mean, nasty messages. Man, you send me a mean, nasty message, I'm probably going to block you. They don't have to put up with that stuff. They're trying to help you. Yes, you paid them a couple $100, but it's nothing like what normal tuners are putting in. Man, I'm talking to these guys down at the Ford place, at the dyno place where they're doing Fords. These people are dropping $6, $7, $8, $12, $18,000 into their cars. They're not playing with nickels and dimes like we are. Here we go. We spend $300 on the tune-up kit, $400 on the tune, and we expect the service like we just dropped 10 G's. Try to understand that you're dealing with a small business if you're getting a tune done on your car. Be patient. Don't tune the only car you got. When Panther was down, I jumped in Queen Bee, drove Queen Bee. I'm not going to take Queen Bee down and Panther's not running right. It's not going to happen. I'm going to keep myself a good daily driver running. I'll tinker with this tuning stuff as long as it takes, and I'll be patient with the tuner. So, if you're trying to get somebody to help you with an ECU tune, be patient. My goodness, you're not spending a fortune. I am by no means making excuses for these guys. When they send you a tune, it should be one set up the way you guys communicated with. For when you pay your money for a tune for a 19T, you shouldn't get a tune for a 16T. So I'm not making excuses for them. I think they should pay attention, not get overwhelmed, help the people that they're under financial contract to help. But I am saying, hey, it's a small business. Be a little patient. It's a specialty group. Work together, get the stuff done, and try not to be a jack, if you know what I mean. Queen Bee has cooled down some. Let me get a pan to drain the coolant, get these pipes off of it, get this stuff out of the way so that I can replace the turbo. If you feel that this information was useful, please like it and share it with your social media friends. You can subscribe to my channel so that you will get notifications of future videos that I post. You can follow me on Twitter, and if you need to contact me directly, please visit my website. And if you have any questions, leave them below, and someone or myself will reply to them. Again, thank you very much for watching.